Nicole Parker is joining us by phone. She's a former FBI special agent. Nicole, thank you very much for joining us. Quite a scene there on the Upper West Side here in Manhattan to see the NYPD arriving at the request of the president of the university. It was really a bombshell decision on the part of the university to call in the police to now remove these students, anti-Israel protesters. She did inform the students that this would take place, that it would be necessary if they did not get off that lawn and remove themselves from those encampments. So this started just after 1 o'clock Eastern time, about 1 hour ago. We saw police arrive on the scene there wearing body armor, face shields, to start to remove these students. Nicole, your thoughts?
It is the university president's job to protect the student, first and foremost. And when students feel threatened and they cannot go about their lives on campus because of protesters, it is law enforcement's job to come in and provide assistance. And my hat goes off to the NYPD for showing up and doing their jobs as they always do. And really for the president of the university to realize we have a problem here and we do need assistance, because that's not something that you really want to have when it's not necessary as a huge law enforcement presence. But I think the message is loud and clear. This will not be tolerated. This cannot be tolerated. This is the United States of America. Students have the right to attend Columbia University and to feel safe. And right now, there is a threat, and it will not be tolerated. And this is not the first time this has happened. I was just joining your program a couple days ago with the incident on the Golden Gate Bridge. Enough is enough. There will be consequences for this type of behavior. It is not legal. It is not appropriate. And enough is enough. And I'm just being very direct, because we cannot continue as a nation to go forward like this.
So, Nicole, this is Jillian. The president of the university may be sending a message today by calling in the NYPD, but is there more she could have done? And is there more that the university administrators could have done to prevent us from getting, or to prevent their school from getting to the point where we are today, where you have dozens of protesters getting rounded up by police? You have this protester presence shutting down part of Manhattan, and you have thousands of Jewish students now talking about how they feel not only unwelcomed, but physically threatened on their own campus.
I mean, these students are living in fear. How could they not be in fear? Look at what is happening. This is 2024. What happened to the open, loving, we're supposed to love one another and accept each other as they are, and we're all going to embrace one another? That is not what these demonstrators are showing. And I can tell you that these types of incidents, they don't just happen at the spur of the moment, okay? There is intelligence going on, and they need to be conducting very serious intelligence operations to understand the planning behind these activities. There are people that are instigating this, that are planning this, and again, that is law enforcement's job. I personally, as a former FBI agent, I would like to see the FBI step in and to get involved and to make sure, and I'm sure that they are behind the scenes, things that you don't even know are going on. But intelligence gathering is important. It is crucial. And when you see it on your television screen or in person, again, it's not a spur-of-the-moment activity. And it is the job of law enforcement to get ahead of it, to prevent these types of things from occurring. Again, it's important to note, people do have their First Amendment right. You have the right to your opinion. You have the right to say what you think, but you do not have the right to inflict fear and potential violence on others. That is not okay. And there are laws that need to be upheld for this.
Nicole, we've been trying to dip in every once in a while to listen to what those students continue to chant there. The New York Post reporter is reporting that the onlookers surrounding the officers are chanting, "Let them go," and "Shame on you," as the arrests are being made. But I would clearly say we're in the hundreds now of students that have been surrounded, and some now that have been removed by the police. Nicole, you think about the resources that this is tying up in a city that badly needs law enforcement right now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, New York City has a very serious violent crime problem. The law enforcement resources are being tied up for a number of things in New York. You've got the Trump trial going on that's tying up a ton of law enforcement resources. Now you have this. Then you have the violent crime problem. Then you have, all of the individuals that are here that have crossed the border that are wreaking havoc. there is a problem going on in this nation, and it really is the key right now to support law enforcement because they've got their hands full. And I just would hope that individuals in this country can show respect and human decency towards one another. How did we get so far off the rails that this is what we're dealing with? This cannot continue on. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for our country. It's not sustainable for law enforcement, and no one should have to live in fear. So again, law enforcement, I'm sure, is doing a tremendous amount of intelligence work on the back end that we're not necessarily aware of. But there is always that fine line. You have your First Amendment rights to protest, but the moment that it's causing problems and becoming potentially terroristic, that is not okay. And, you know, I am just watching the screen just as y'all are, but this cannot continue on in our country.
Nicole, we saw in real time as these anti-Israel, anti-Jewish protesters really reached critical mass during the day yesterday, at least in terms of numbers. Then last night, we saw during some of the protests on the campus there, people making specific threats against not only Israelis, but Jews. We saw them setting off flares. How does the NYPD generally look at those types of activities, at that type of behavior? Is that considered threatening?
You know, what I saw happen in the summer of 2020 in our country, I mean, I saw cities literally burn to the ground and certain activities that were taken, and law enforcement in many instances felt that their hands were tied. But I think we're in a new, this is a whole nother issue, and there's a lot of hate in our country right now, and we have got to come together and find mutual respect. It is a very, very dangerous situation. But again, NYPD, they have their chain of command. They have their plan in place, and I am so grateful to them. I am so grateful to them that they are stepping up as they always do and doing their jobs and protecting these students at Columbia University. But again, this is not the first protest that we've seen that has turned into something that is not manageable. It's got to be manageable. They have to be containable. It cannot spiral into something that could potentially be more and more out of control. And that's why it's key to get law enforcement involved as soon as possible. And they are doing a phenomenal job, as NYPD always does.
Absolutely.